I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, a weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today we're talking with Wynett Jones. She's Program Director for Books from Birth at Porter-Leath, so stay with us for a conversation with Wynett. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's do the quick version of what is Books from Birth for people who don't know, and then we'll talk deeper about all the nuances and scope and history and so on.
Sure. Books from Birth is the local affiliate of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. The program mails books to children from birth to age 5 each month at no cost to families.
And it's funny how I remember hearing about it the first time 10 years ago or something, or 15 years ago. I don't know what it was, a long time ago. And it was definitely 15 years ago, it seems like. It sounds so simple. But then if you're a parent or you've been around, educated, whatever it is, you begin to realize how profound, the simplicity is part of what makes it kind of profound.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. It gives parents an opportunity to ensure that they're helping to get their child ready for kindergarten. The books are thoughtfully selected along developmental themes to help that little one progress into the beginning of learning to read, that foundation that every child needs before they even enter kindergarten.
It's all comers, is that right? All kids are born. I mean, do I remember that right? That it's like in the hospital, basically.
Yes.
Y'all are running around with a clip. I'm joking, but like running around with a clipboard. That's how it is. Okay, Natalie Van Gundy chiming in, who's more recent than me in this. I mean, everybody in Shelby County, is it a broader area?
So our territory is Shelby County. Okay. The program is available throughout Tennessee and many other states. So speaking specifically for Shelby County, our hospital partners, the birthing hospitals, assist us in enrolling children when the child is born. It takes about 10 weeks for them to receive their first book, just enough time for the families to get their routine down with the little one sleeping hopefully through the night by then. The first book is Miss Parton's favorite book, which is The Little Engine That Could. And then they'll start to receive more an age-appropriate book each month until that child turns 5 and it grows with that child.
So, I mean, it's 12 books. It's so interesting because I can remember back quite a while ago now, my oldest is about to turn 28, which is insane. But you do sort of find yourself flooded. You sort of want to flood the zone with stuff, right? As a kid. And then you get flooded by friends and family maybe. Or some families don't. I mean, there's all kinds out there, but we were fortunate. But there are then these books. And then earlier than I think I knew, because I had not spent a lot of time with infants and small children. It's just, I didn't until I was suddenly a parent, which is another thing, by the way, that you can't drive a car without a license, but you can be a parent pretty easily. So suddenly I'm a parent. And it was interesting how early my daughter, who came 2 years later, responded to books.
Wonderful.
Settle down and listen and want to chew on them and want to play with them, but also want to be like, it was a kind of way to connect and kind of read or show or colors, or I can't remember how early, but much earlier than as a very novice parent, I thought it would be.
Well, 80% of our brain development happens by the time we're 3, and then 90% of it by the time we're 5. And so in those first 5 critical years of life, there's a lot happening in the brain, and it is a great opportunity to introduce your child to a variety of things. The program now has, for Tennessee, the ability for families to request books that are bilingual in Spanish. It not only allows us to support those families who English isn't their first language, but maybe your family wants to help your child learn Spanish as well. So that text is in English and in Spanish. And you just spoke to it. Your little one was doing things that you were amazed that they could do with it in the beginning, but it's because of what's happening in the brain in those first 5 years of their life.
Long before he could read, and in many ways before he could speak and say the words, but he would point at things.
Yes.
He'd want me to say that word of that thing, of that color, of that shape. All that stuff was just an utter mystery and amazing to watch.
And it is also necessary to see those milestones be met before your child gets to kindergarten. You want that little one to begin to make sounds. So can you determine that the child can hear, right? You have that hearing test before you leave the hospital. But your child is progressing into first making sounds and then speaking words, right? And so that's how we're learning language. And so those first few months are very critical, but really as that child is getting ready for kindergarten, where they're going to later learn their name, we want to know their name, that they hear it and they can respond to it. Yeah. But can they recognize it on the book? Can they begin to even start to even try to learn to write it?
Yeah. Talk about some of the scope. And I mean, it's not meant as a math test, but just, I mean, how many children in a given year, or how many children? I mean, just let's walk through some of the numbers and the sort of scale.
In terms of our program.
Yeah.
So currently there are about 31,000 children enrolled in Shelby County. It only represents about 50% of the eligible population in the county. And the program is made possible by donors. So Ms. Parton began the program in Sevierville, in her hometown, in honor of her father, who was illiterate. And she and her team then worked with Governor Bredesen at that time to determine how could we make this program available to more families in Tennessee. And so Tennessee was the first statewide program in the U.S. And so our program has been here for over 21 years, thanks to some wonderful leaders who thought we'll take this on. One being former Mayor Wharton, A.C. Wharton.
Yeah.
And those volunteers who made it possible. And so they brought that here to Tennessee and allowed each child the opportunity to have access to those books.
When you talk about having 30,000, which is 50%, which to me is remarkable, but I get it. You want to be 99.9, you want to be 100%. So I don't, what are the challenges, impediments, needs to get to increase from 50% to 60, 70, and so on?
So there are a few of those. The biggest challenge is fundraising. So half of our cost comes from the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. When I spoke to Ms. Parton's team, working with Governor Bredesen at that time, they created the foundation, which is now known as the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation. And so they provide half of the cost for every child in the state, as funds are available. And then each nonprofit, each county is responsible for raising the other portion. And so our portion is about $25 per child per year. Okay. And so all of those dollars that we raise stay local to the program. Another piece that we don't have control over, but work to educate parents on, is the importance of keeping their address up to date.
Yeah, I got to believe that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can't mail to a bad address.
Well, it's expensive.
It is expensive.
So it's also a sort of, you get those returns and you've spent
absolutely
a large amount of money.
Absolutely.
In the Postal Service. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, you're fine. So that's the biggest challenge. You have the fundraising challenge, as well as trying to keep books into the households longer. There's data to suggest that the more books a child has access to, they increase their kindergarten readiness scores, right? And so there's a balance that we have to play in making sure that we can provide those books to a family for 5 years. So even before the cost of gas and everything has increased, parents have had an increase in expenses in their households. So everyone wants their little one to be ready for kindergarten and beyond. But these first foundational years are critical if the family isn't even able to afford or identify a child care center that they're comfortable with. Some families choose that they want the little one to stay home, and that's perfectly fine. We want to give them the resources that they need in their home so that they can practice with that little one, with reading 15 to 20 minutes a day, helping them to identify their letters and their colors and their shapes and all of that, and ultimately get them ready for kindergarten so they can begin to learn to read before they get to third grade, where they have to read to learn.
And do y'all work with, separate Porter-Leath, people know lots of childcare, Head Start, all kinds of programs. Do y'all work to supply other daycare centers with books, or no? This is all about the individual. This is about the family and the child.
Yes, we do. So daycares can contact our office to determine if we have some return books available. They would email me at dwjones@porterleath.org and be willing to come and pick those up. It's as they're available. So we purchase those back from the post office, and we attempt to contact a parent to say, is your address correct? Right now we're having to remove parents just because of, if we're getting your books back, they have failed to update their address. But we are helping daycares ensure that they're having a diversity of books in their daycares.
Where does adult literacy fall into it? Which is the sad reality of, you mentioned Dolly Parton's father. I mean, it's a national problem. I mean, it's a challenge. And so you've got people who live with limited. I used to be on the board many years ago of what was then Literacy Mid-South. I think it's a different name now that I'm drawing a blank on. But, just the tragedy of literacy and adult and can't remember the proper term, but kind of semi-literacy and people who struggle and maybe recognizing the need, but aren't really well equipped to read to their children. I mean, you can't solve every problem, so I don't want to put this on you.
No,
but how do you work through those challenges?
So one of the things is that Literacy Mid-South is still very vibrant in our community, and they are still, is my understanding, assisting adults with reading.
Yes.
As we engage with families who may have that as their challenge currently, we encourage them to utilize things like YouTube, where a lot of these books are on YouTube where you can read along with your child. Well, that's a balance because we're also discouraging a lot of screen time, right? But this is an opportunity that I believe that families who are experiencing literacy deficits can also learn to read with their little ones as well, because the book is growing with the child.
Yeah. We'll take a break to do a little housekeeping, but Wynett Jones, give your email one more time.
dwjones@porterleath.org.
And if people want to support or learn more about the program, they can go to
porterleath.org.
Okay. And we'll come back with Wynett here in a minute. But let me remind everyone that I'm Eric Barnes, and this is The Sidebar. It airs here on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. Focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. But it's not just a radio show. It's one of many podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including our morning podcast, the AM/DM, with Mary Casciola and Natalie Van Gundy, who's sitting over here producing this show and all of our podcasts, as well as you hear from many different reporters and staff members from the Daily Memphian on the AM/DM every day. We also have our Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington, and our food podcast, Soundbites, hosted by Holly Whitfield. Soundbites and The Sidebar air on WYXR every Thursday, first at 11 and then at 11:30 for this show. But again, also available as podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. We also host the podcast version of Behind the Headlines, the TV show we produce with the folks at WKNO every week. Those, again, are on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. They're about to be video podcasts, which is pretty exciting. We have the cameras on right now, but we're not actually going to publish those. But in the coming weeks, you'll start seeing all of our podcasts have a video element, so more to come on that. And with YXR and the two shows that are on YXR, you can get those episodes there at WYXR.org or download the app. That includes all the shows on WYXR, both the archives of the talk shows, archives of the music shows, and a live stream of whatever's going on WYXR and all the over 100 different volunteer DJs and hosts on the station. If you're not a member or supporter of WYXR, consider becoming one. It's nonprofit listener-supported radio. If you become a member, you get all kinds of benefits and T-shirts and things. I think you can get a discount or even a free subscription to the Daily Memphian. So go to WYXR and learn more about that. And if you're not a paid subscriber to the Daily Memphian, do consider becoming one. Paid subscriptions cover about half of what we do at the Daily Memphian, a newsroom of about 40 people, the largest in the area. And then another 25% is advertising and events and sponsorships, and 25% is donations, because we are also a 501c3 and do look for support on that. Coming up soon on The Sidebar, we've got the folks from Live at the Garden talking about the new season. We think we have John Zena lined up, the infrastructure czar, as I like to call him, who also wrote a book. We're going to talk about his book and maybe a little bit of what they've got going on infrastructure-wise in Memphis. Recently, we had Anna Mullins Ellis from New Memphis Institute. We had Karen Carrier talking about the beauty shop and all the other restaurants and things she's done over many years. And we had folks from Brooks and Memphis College of Art talking about the Memphis College of Art exhibit that's going on at the Brooks right now. Behind the headlines, coming up soon, we've got John DeBerry, Republican candidate for county mayor, then Mikkel Lowry coming up, the Democratic candidate for county mayor, and Anthony Buckner, who is running for sheriff, and we're trying to get Brad Less, his Republican opponent, scheduled as well in the coming weeks. Recently had, affordable housing show. We had a show with Paul Young. That was over a month ago, but it's still interesting. U.S. Attorney Mike Donovan was on. That was interesting as well. All those are available at YouTube, the Daily Memphian, WKNO.org, or you can get them as podcasts wherever you get your podcasts. But we are still here with Wynett Jones. She is program director for Books from Birth at Porter-Leath. Misperceptions, or not, misperceptions is a negative, but just like misunderstandings or confusion about the program. Like what comes up?
What comes up the most is the thought that Miss Parton pays for all of the books.
Oh, I bet.
Yes. So how the program works. The Imagination Library selects the books that are published exclusively by Penguin Random House.
Yeah.
So we do get a lot of calls about how can I make my book a part of the Imagination Library? I'm a local author. Your book has to be published by Penguin Random House and meet certain developmental guidelines.
Sure.
And then the awards committee, who are made up of educators, look through those texts and select them for the next year through negotiations with the publisher and author and so on and so forth. The Imagination Library, then they work with a warehouse in East Tennessee to ship those books around the country. So our program is the second largest in the U.S. or of all of the affiliates that are around the world as a part of the Imagination Library.
Yeah.
And then the governors, as I mentioned earlier, the Governor's Early Literacy Foundation supports us with half the cost of the book and the mailing, but they also have book trails where they place certain books on walking spaces where little ones who are walking with their parents can stop and read the story around a particular story as they're enjoying a walk. Yeah. And they have a lot of other things, the K through 3 reading library where they mail books in the summer. And then they support us with mailing the books each month. Yeah. So the biggest piece is the understanding about how Ms. Parton supports the work and not funding all of the program.
I think people always, and I don't mean this, it's human nature. You think about a nonprofit, you think about a big name donor and you think, oh, they got it all, and that's both good and bad. I think people don't realize how much things cost.
Right.
Like what to mail a book costs, give or take. We're talking about the Postal Service.
So because of this relationship with the Imagination Library, we're under $1.
But still.
And that's right. And so that's for just the postage. And depending on the text, it might be a little bit more than $1. That's still a lower cost than if wherever you purchase your books, whichever bookstore or online, that's still a significantly reduced cost to parents to get an age-appropriate, high-quality text each month in the mail. It's one less thing you have to do. We encourage you to go to the library, but here is an opportunity of the next text coming to your home, and it's trying to help you as you raise your little one.
Yeah, but it's still $30,000. It's still a month. It's still $360,000. Right. I mean, in round numbers,
absolutely.
It's still just significant money.
A big cost each month.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Mentioned libraries. Mm-hmm. I have an amazing library system here in Memphis and Shelby County. Yes. But there have been cuts in various, in various ways. How do you interact with the libraries and maybe try to fill gaps and so on?
That's a great question. So as the child approaches their 5th birthday, based on our particular relationships with particular branches, and as volunteers are available, we work together to host a graduation during their story time so that little one, we can make it really big and highlight the success of them finishing these 60 books, right? But also as a great reminder to families to sign up for a library card. We get a lot of calls with parents to say, can I just change my child's birth date so they can continue to get a text? And we're like, unfortunately, no, because the book
Love the energy, but
the
no.
book is age appropriate, right? We want that little one to continue to learn and to continue to grow in their reading journey and to utilize the resource that our county and our cities provide, which is the library. And so we do that. We also have partnered with the libraries who may be doing book drives and trying to encourage like summer reading that's coming about, and children who want to read some other texts to donate books to them as well that they can give out at various events that they're having to fill the gap in that way.
And are there signups, at the library for Books of Birth?
Yes.
I mean, so that kind of community, kind of back and forth.
Absolutely. That is a given. Yes, that is there. Yeah.
Well, and it's one of those challenges of the library of a city like, frankly, most American cities that have really weak public transportation. We are also a particularly big city, so it's nice.
I can speak to another creative way that filling the gap, if you will. One of our funders and community partners, the Urban Child Institute, has sponsored what they call the Pinwheel Playrooms. And these are waiting spaces like a laundromat, the health department, MATA, the hospitality hub, and there are others that will be opening. But there are children's play areas that have books there. So our books that we have as extra are there so that as families are waiting or riding the bus, that they can read and wait and not hopefully step away from our devices for just a moment and have that connection and be working toward increasing their literacy as well. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I should say, and you can sign up for the program at those places as well. There's a sign up. There's a QR all those kinds of things. Yes. Yeah. How did the program, how long have you been with the program now? I've been here 8 years. 8 years. I ask people this question all the time because I still find it fascinating. COVID or, whatever, 5 years from where it felt like it was over, even though it lingered and we read Delta and we had all these. Somebody reminded me the other day when I brought this question about Omicron. Remember the variant? I was like, oh yeah, right. That wasn't a Transformer movie. That was really this, that was a big thing. How did the program change, if at all, during and after COVID? The biggest change is how we were enrolling families. Yeah. And the change in funding. Yeah. Enrollment went from volunteers going door to door in the hospital. COVID happened. Yeah. And we couldn't do that. And so the hospitals have been outstanding for their nursing team to support us in continuing to enroll children. That's what happened to me. Oh, yeah, because you had a COVID baby. That's right. Yeah. Natalie Mangundi. Right. Yeah. So then we had creative enrollment. There were the 6 feet apart signs. Remember those? Yeah. We placed QR codes on those and placed them in the milk aisle and the cereal aisle and trying to still reach those families. Yeah. But as our funding has changed, we've had to focus primarily on the hospitals. Unfortunately, those children who were born in 2020 and 2021 right now are receiving a denial, but it's not a complete denial. We've already purchased the books, and if I have the copies of the books that they would have received for the year or 2 years, we provide those as a bundle for that family to pick up. What we're experiencing is not only an increase as it relates to postage, but just the overall cost to deliver the program. So to try to balance out giving with making sure that children have these books, that is what we're having to do locally to keep families reading, but not increase our bottom line. Yeah. How do you, again, Porter-Leath known for lots of all kinds of early child care work that y'all do. Do you see kids who've been in Books from Birth now in pre-K and maybe they got a jump start on that? Because you were talking about being ready for kindergarten as a goal of Books for Birth, but with more, not all, unfortunately, but more kids in pre-K. Mm-hmm. That might even just be a simple happy thing. Like this kid was reading the books that you got delivered to him and now they're doing well in pre-K. So two of our advisory council members, along with Seeding Success, took a retrospective look at the program from 2010 to 2015 to look at their kindergarten readiness scores as it relates to a local school district. And what they found is the children who had more books did better than those who had fewer books, not zero, but fewer, and what we expected to see, versus those who didn't receive any. And so it shows that the work that we are doing works and it matters. What we don't have is the data to layer on top of that. Where did that child attend? Did they attend pre-K? Were they only at home? Were they at a small a daycare or a home-based center? And some of those factors we don't have the data on, but we understand that those that we are evaluating as they're leaving our centers, we understand where their readiness scores are, right? And we're also ensuring that those children who we have access to are also enrolled in Books from Birth. So that's a separate set of data that hasn't been analyzed. So it could only mean great things if that child has the layering on of pre-K as well as books that are coming into their home or into their classrooms, or books from the waiting spaces that they can continue to read and increase their access to text, which we know we will see the outcomes of their reading in kindergarten readiness scores.
I mean, and it comes full circle to the simplicity of the program.
Absolutely.
Is kind of part of what is so resonant and profound about it. But then, all this stuff is not simple, right? And we've talked through all that stuff, but it is nice to see the data. And, as a parent, you see it as this child starts reading and they're drawn to it, and they're in the grocery store and they're pointing at things, they're talking about things, all that virtuous circle of being exposed to words.
Yes. And it also opens a child to topics that may not be covered in the home. What if the child is the only child and topics of sharing? Right? You want to be ready for kindergarten.
The mother of the only child over here giggling hysterically.
You want your little
sharing.
one.
What's sharing?
Yes.
Share.
Yes, you want the little one when you're getting into kindergarten and having and the need to share with their classmates or taking your turn. It's your turn, or this is Sammy's turn. That matters. And so the topics that are covered in the book give additional topics that families may not have thought of that they need to address, right? Or how to place a word with your feelings instead of just the crying, is to have a conversation about, like one of the texts of I Am a Rainbow. There is a book called Emotions, and a little emotional. And so you're able to say that I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm sad, I'm excited. You're giving a word to, it's not just the vocabulary, but you're helping a little one give vocabulary to these big emotions, big adult emotions that they're feeling.
Well, I was going to say, I should probably get a copy of that sometime. So, Natalie's going to bring one in from home. We're just about out of time. I always try to ask people, what was your first concert?
I have been trying to think about that because I heard you on other podcasts ask that question, and I was like, was it TLC? I mean, you've asked me to go way back, and I'm like, I think it was.
Yeah. A lot of people there's the first one they remember. There's the first one maybe their parents took them to, and then there's the first one they saved up their money and they bought the ticket and they got dropped off,
I think
they
this was
snuck
a drop
out.
off.
That was the drop off. Chelsea in Nashville.
Nashville.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, we are out of time. Wynett Jones is program director of Books from Birth for Porter-Leath. People can go to Porter-Leath, get more information, donate, get enrolled. If they have friends they don't think are enrolled, all that information should be on the website. But that is all the time we have this week. If you missed any of the show, you can get the full episode at WYXR or the Daily Memphian, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.